What if one of the most disturbing cult stories in the world wasn't hiding in a compound, but online? No robes, no remote desert property, no public leader giving speeches to a crowd, just encrypted chats, extremist writings, violent fantasies, and a cult-like network accused of pushing people toward terror. This is the story of the Maniac Murder Cult, an international neo-Nazi extremist group that U.S. prosecutors say promoted violence, mass casualties, and racial terror. And at the center of it was a man known online as Commander Butcher. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, that man was Michail Chkhikvishvili, a Georgian national accused of leading the Maniac Murder Cult, also known as MMC, MKY, and Maniacs, Cult of Killing. Prosecutors say the group followed a neo-Nazi accelerationist ideology, meaning they wanted to use terror and violent attacks to create chaos, destabilize society, and spark wider racial and political conflict. And this story gets disturbing fast. Federal prosecutors say Chkhikvishvili recruited others to commit violent acts against Jews, racial minorities, and other people the group considered undesirables. In one of the most shocking allegations, prosecutors say he tried to get an undercover law enforcement source to dress as Santa Claus and hand out poison candy to Jewish children and minorities in Brooklyn on New Year's Eve. They say he also discussed using ricin, bombs, arson, firearms, and vehicle explosions as tools of mass killing. That alone sounds unreal. But prosecutors say it did not stop there. The Justice Department alleged that he sent bomb-making instructions and information about making ricin, and that he tried to inspire acts of terror by circulating violent writings and encouraging others to attack soft targets, people he believed would be easy to kill and hard to protect. The government described the case as a modern example of digital extremist organizing, a violent ideology spreading through private messages, online propaganda, and cult-like loyalty. And yes, there is a real case, a real arrest, and real charges. In July 2024, Chkhikvishvili was charged in the Eastern District of New York. The Department of Justice said the indictment included 4 counts, including soliciting hate crimes and acts of mass violence. He was later arrested in Chisinau, Moldova, then extradited to the United States in May 2025 to face those charges in federal court in Brooklyn. So if you want the arrest part cleanly for narration, he was charged in the U.S. in 2024, arrested in Moldova, and extradited to Brooklyn in 2025. And the case moved even further after that. In November 2025, Chkhikvishvili pleaded guilty in federal court. The Justice Department said he pleaded guilty to soliciting hate crimes and sending instructions to make bombs and ricin. Prosecutors said he had recruited people to bomb and poison Jewish people and racial minorities, and had planned and solicited a mass casualty attack in New York City. That is what makes this case so different from a lot of cult stories. This was not just a fringe belief system. It was a cult-like extremist network allegedly built around murder, terror, racial violence, and online radicalization. And some of the language tied to the case is beyond disturbing. A court document released by the Justice Department included writing attributed to Commander Butcher that described the group's goal as spreading chaos and ethnic cleansing. Prosecutors also referenced a manifesto called the Hater's Handbook, which they say was used to encourage acts of violence and terror. There's also the question of whether this group stayed online AP reported that prosecutors and investigators said the ideology connected to the Maniac Murder Cult was believed to have inspired real-world violence, including a Nashville school shooting in 2024 that left a 16-year-old student dead. That does not mean every violent act tied to similar ideology was directly ordered by Chkhikvishvili, but it shows why investigators treated this as more than internet roleplay. They believed this kind of content could help push people from obsession into real bloodshed. And that may be the scariest part of the entire story, because older cult stories usually have some barrier between them and normal life. A compound, a church, a commune, a physical space where the danger grows in isolation. But this one allegedly worked through the internet. A young person could stumble into it through a chat room, a message app, a manifesto, a fascination with violence, a feeling of alienation, a desire to belong to something dark and powerful. And before long, that person could be inside a cult-like ecosystem built around hate, death, and mass casualty fantasies. That's what makes the Maniac Murder Cult feel so modern. It's not just a murder cult. It's an internet murder cult.